What if the seller won't move out? What about that? Hi, I'm Chuck Vosberg from Next Home Gulf to Bay, along with my wife Pat, your favorite realtors. And this question came up. The question was, what do we do now? The people closed on the house, the sellers are still there, and they won't move. The answer is very complex with them. They need an attorney to make this happen. But it could have been easily avoided. So here's the proper way that this transaction should have happened, which would have prevented the sellers from being able to stay in the property. So here's the way it works. So you're under contract with the property, the closing date is approaching. So typically before the closing, there's a walkthrough, and that happens right before the closing and usually on the way to the closing. We'll stop by there with buyers, do a walkthrough, make sure everything's okay, and then go on down to the title company and go ahead and close. Well, evidently, in the case I mentioned, that didn't happen. Now, we take it a step further, though, because if you wait until right before closing, there's not really much time to solve problems. So what we do is we still do the walkthrough right before closing because we want to make sure everything is okay right up to the minute, as close as we can to when we close. But we also do a pre-walkthrough, and we'll do that a day or two in advance just to make sure there aren't any lingering problems. Maybe there's some appliances missing that were supposed to be there, or maybe the place has been left in a mess. We do this so that there's enough time to remedy the situation so they don't have to delay closing. Because if you delay the closing, it's just a big mess for everybody involved because they usually have things scheduled up, there's movers involved, things are all lined up. So there's a lot of moving parts when you're buying a new house, of course, and you don't want to have a problem at the last possible second. So we always, always, always follow our steps and don't skip steps. That's what happened to this poor realtor and their client, was that they skipped a step. And I don't know why. They probably had a perfectly good reason at the time, but that perfectly good reason came back and bit them really hard. So we want to make sure that we always follow our steps every single time, the same way every time, so that things don't get overlooked. And it really makes it almost impossible to mess up. Now, things do happen. For example, there was one situation where day before the closing, people were still there. And we're like, hey, look, you need to be out by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, right? Because that's when the papers get signed and the buyer's getting their keys. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So we come by to do the final walkthrough on the way to the title company. They're still there. So what we do is, and this is great because there's two of us, one of us will stay behind and be on the phone, and before that thing is funded, it's like, okay, they're gone. Then they fund it. Because once that money changes hands, it's a whole different deal, and kicking people out of a house that they're living in becomes an eviction at that point, instead of making them fulfill a contractual obligation. So it can be a mess, but like most things in real estate, if you anticipate problems in advance, they can be avoided. And that's where having very experienced realtors like Pat and I really, really pays off, because these problems can crop up at any time. But we've seen them, we know about them, and we know how to avoid them. So maybe you're thinking about moving, or perhaps you know somebody who is. We'd love to talk with them. No pressure or anything. We put humans over houses. We'll tell you anything you want to know. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.